Hello, my name is Yunchan Kwan, and this is the CS2340 Android assignment. For this assignment, we had to do 7 to-do tasks to complete a number guessing game in Android Studio. So the first task was to set the content view to the correct layout file, and to do this, I did set content view dot parentheses r dot layout activity underscore game to display the layout file. For the second task, it was to implement the add guest functionality. And to do this, I took the in guest as the guest in the parameter and added it to the private list in the class, and then incremented the guest count by 1. For the third to do, it was to bind the UI elements to their XML counterparts. And to do this, I took each of the private variable in the class and then did each elements by find view by ID and then matched each ID to its matching component in the XML file. For the fourth task, it was to implement the logic for the submit button. And to do this, I set up a set on-click listener, and inside the onClick, I retrieve the guess as a string first because that's the only way to do it. And then I converted that into an integer and then use the check guess function to retrieve the feedback for the guess. And then afterwards, I use the set text function to set the feedback and counter the number of guesses to update the UI. For the to-do number 5, it was to create an edit text for user input. Here I made a new edit text and then I labeled the ID as user input. And then for width and height, I did match parent and wrap content. And then I used the hint so that the text wouldn't be present. It would just be a background, and when you type the numbers into it, it would disappear. And for the input type, I specified it to be a number, so the users can only enter number as the parameter. For the sixth function, it was implementing the logic for the reset button, where the only thing I did is set up on set on click listener and call the reset game function and reset the UI to the original state and with the message game reset. And when I actually run the app, it looks like this, where if I start guessing like 50, it says too low and it updates the guess count. Since it's too low, we'll go higher. It's still too low, and then still too low. And then there we go. The correct guess was number 98. And just to show that it still works for the high, if we guess 99, it's too high. And then when we go back to 98, it says correct. And when we reset the game, it resets the counter and then guesses go back to 0. And when we guess 98 again, it's too high. So the number changes. And then, oh, there we go. The correct number was 3. And for the task number 7, it was to create a unit test for this app. To do this, what I did was I tested it low by guessing number 0 because the domain of the guess is number 1 to 100, so 0 would always return low. And then to test the high, I tested number 101. And to test the equal, I had a separate integer to store the correct number, and then I went to a for loop and found what the correct number is, and then I did assert equals is the correct number and the actual correct guess in the game. And when I run this unit test, it says all tests are passed.